Hey there, thanks for tuning into Secrets of the Ancients. If you want to keep exploring these mysterious stories from the past with us, go ahead and subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. It really helps us out and makes sure you don't miss any future videos. So, this strange discovery in Lake Huron might actually contain the remains of an entire ancient civilization. Whoa, wait, sounds like Atlantis, right? Well, not exactly. But if there really was an ancient underwater civilization here, it must have been pretty advanced. Around 10,000 years ago, two sharp, glass-like flakes broke off a stone tool and fell to the ground unnoticed. They stayed buried there for thousands of years, until 2013. That's when scientists pulled up a small chunk of clay, about the size of a milk carton, from the bottom of Lake Huron, 100 feet underwater. Inside it, they found the same two flakes, made from obsidian, a shiny black volcanic glass that forms when lava cools quickly. After some testing, they realized those flakes came all the way from Central Oregon, about 2,500 miles away. The site they were found in lies in the Great Lakes region, on what's called the Alpena Amberley Ridge. It's an underwater landform that used to connect modern-day Michigan and Ontario. Back then, it was dry land. Early humans used it to build animal traps, especially for caribou. As the Ice Age ended and the Great Lakes began to form, obsidian became the high-tech material of the time. It's super sharp and perfect for making tools, and when you look closely at the flakes, it's obvious they were made by people. You can see strike marks and feathered edges from precise cutting. That means not only were people making tools here, they also had access to obsidian from incredibly far away, likely through a vast trade network that stretched across the continent. For over 100 years, folks have suspected that ancient communities might be buried under the Great Lakes, but, well, no one had solid proof. That's why this underwater archaeological site is such a big deal. A team of researchers has been studying it for over a decade, trying to uncover more about this 10,000-year-old culture. The icy waters of Lake Huron acted like a time capsule, preserving things for thousands of years. So far, researchers haven't just found unique stone tools. They've also discovered ancient trees with roots still intact, and underwater peat bogs that preserved seeds and leaves. It's like an Ice Age version of Pompeii, a frozen moment in time. These discoveries are also helping scientists come up with new techniques for underwater archaeology. They've been using sonar, underwater robots and divers to explore the site. Interestingly, the tools they found on the Alpena Amberley Ridge are much smaller than similar tools from the same period found nearby. This might mean that a different group of people lived here, with their own unique lifestyle. Even the ancient peat bogs they found, about 9,500 years old, still hold secrets. They're filled with pine needles, seeds and leaves that can tell us what the environment was like back then. Normally things like that decay quickly on land, but the cold, fresh water preserved them. The Michigan team is even working with scientists at Cambridge University in England to extract DNA from the remains. If it works, it might finally tell us what kinds of animals lived there, and maybe even more. There are still years of discoveries ahead at this prehistoric Great Lakes site. Another famous underwater archaeological site is the lost city of Pavlopetri. Experts believe it's the oldest known sunken city in the world. It's about 5,000 years old, meaning it existed even before the legendary Greek heroes in Homer's epics. Scientists first discovered Pavlopetri in 1904, but it was mostly forgotten until 1967, when Nicholas Fleming rediscovered it. He described it as a Bronze Age city now sitting under 10 to 13 feet of water. The following year, he returned with a team of scientists to study the site. Over 6 weeks, using just tape measures and a simple grid system, they managed to map out the city. They found it covered an area about 1,000 by 500 feet, with at least 15 buildings, courtyards, 5 streets, 2 cemeteries, and around 37 small stone tombs. They also found evidence that the ruins extended to nearby Pavlopetri island. They uncovered beautiful pottery, obsidian, blade tools, and even a small bronze statue possibly dating back to 2800 BCE. However, most of the buildings date from between 1650 and 1180 BCE. After that, the site was largely untouched again until 2009, when a new team of researchers launched a 5-year project to dig deeper into Pavlopetri's past. This time, they had digital mapping tools and advanced diving equipment that allowed them to explore and even excavate underwater. They discovered an additional 97,000 square feet of buildings, including a large hall and hidden streets. They also found more pottery showing that people lived in the city from around 3000 to 1000 BCE, with a population estimated between 500 and 2000 people. No one knows for sure what happened to the city or why it ended up underwater. Although it's now underwater, many scientists believe that Pavlopetri sank due to an earthquake, possibly around 1000 BCE or maybe even as late as 375 CE. Since it's the oldest underwater city ever discovered, some people think Pavlopetri may have inspired the legend of Atlantis. Another contender for the real Atlantis title lies near Japan. You see, back in 1986, a local diver was exploring the waters around the Ryukyu Islands when he stumbled upon a massive structure. It was made of these perfectly shaped steps and sharp-edged platforms. And believe it or not, it sat about 82 feet below the surface. Today, folks call it the Yonaguni Monument, and it's considered one of the most mysterious underwater sites on Earth. The structure is roughly the size of half a football field. It looks like a huge stone pyramid with layers of terraces and steps stacked on top of each other. Now here's the kicker. No one really knows where it came from or who built it. Some experts believe the monument could be over 10,000 years old, making it older than the Egyptian pyramids. One theory suggests it might be the last remnant of a lost civilization called Mu, a legendary Pacific society similar to Atlantis. Others, though, think an ancient culture that lived in Japan around 12,000 BCE, or even in parts of Eastern and Central Europe, might have been responsible for building it. However, many scientists and geologists are skeptical about the idea of an ancient underwater civilization here. Even though Yonaguni has narrow passageways, archways and right angles that almost look like city blocks, they argue the site resembles natural rock formations, like the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. They point out that the entire monument is still attached to a larger base of bedrock, which suggests it wasn't built stone by stone. The way the layers are stacked probably has more to do with earthquakes and tectonic shifts. After all, it's located in the highly active Pacific Ring of Fire. Still, one marine geologist kept returning to the site, and each time he found something new. He says he discovered tool marks in the rock, carvings on stone surfaces, and even animal-shaped rock formations. He believes these carvings point to a culture that came from mainland Asia. He claims to have identified 10 separate structures off the coast of Yonaguni, including a collapsed castle, a triumphal arch, 5 temples, and even a massive museum. These buildings seem to be connected by roads and channels, and parts of them are surrounded by what may be giant stone walls. The explorer estimates the city is at least 5,000 years old, based on rock deposits found in nearby underwater caves, which only formed after the caves were submerged. Supporters of the theory argue that they've never seen an earthquake create shapes like this above or below water. But skeptics chalk it all up to erosion. They insist the holes in the rocks were caused by swirling underwater currents and sea creatures. Finally, I just want to say thank you for listening and for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this episode of Secrets of the Ancients, be sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And don't forget to check out our future videos for